All right, welcome in everybody. Welcome to the Women's Wellness Network and welcome to our guest today, Christina. Hello, Christina. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you today?
I'm great after, fighting a little with my technology, but I think it's an everyday thing now, so I should just get used to it.
Exactly. We'll just roll with it.
Yep, that's all we can do. And, what works will work and what doesn't, oh well, no worries.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's start off, of course, as my favorite question of the beginning of our interviews is to always find out where on the planet our guest is from. So where are you, Christina?
I am in Canyon City, Colorado.
Canyon City, Colorado. My
Small
nice.
town, USA.
Beautiful. Oh my goodness. Okay, well, you're, a couple, I was going to say provinces. You're either way, you're a couple over and one, two down, I guess. And you're kind of close to me. You're not as far as some other people that I speak with. So I feel like, I could come and visit you. You're just right down the road, sort of.
Absolutely. Doors always open.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for coming today. I had got the opportunity to speak with you already in another interview, which was wonderful, and I really want to expand on all of the things that we talked about. Just really get into who Christina is, what it is you're doing in the world, and why. So please begin by introducing yourself a little bit and tell us who Christina is.
Okay. Well, I am a life transformational coach and a certified happy for no reason trainer. So I teach and coach on happiness. And yeah, and I love doing this work in the world because I think what it all comes down to for all of us is no matter what we're doing, what's going on in life, we want a sense of happiness. We want to live happy. And certainly in the world today, that's something that I feel I want to contribute to helping people reach that sense of inner peace and well-being that doesn't depend on their circumstances.
Right. Well, I mean, things are changeable. Things change all the time.
Yeah.
We got to be prepared. We got to know how to stay in that space of joy and upliftment because things are always going to go wrong. That's part of life, right?
Right, right. And it's such a different paradigm because so many times people are looking for happiness outside of themselves. They're looking for their job or their finances or their soulmate or whatever. And that's not where it is. So this is such a different paradigm to say, how do we cultivate happiness from the inside and then bring it to those things instead of gleaning happiness from external things? To say, how do we anchor into this and then we bring it out into those things and those things change and they get better and all of that starts to flourish. So it's such a different perspective than I think most of us grew up with, to think, oh, you've got to check all these boxes. And when you've done all these things, then you'll be happy. I can tell you, working with so many people over the years, that's not the case. They could have all those boxes. They could have success, money, even fame, and find them, they're like, why am I still not happy? And it's this internal piece that they've not looked at. It's just a different perspective completely. So it's a lot of fun.
Right. Well, of course, being happy is amazing. Who doesn't want to have more of that?
So I would say every day in my prayer and meditation time, I give gratitude that I get to do what I get to do. So I
Hmm.
love what I do. And yeah, it's a huge blessing.
Absolutely. My goodness. Yes, especially when you see your clients succeeding and they are becoming happy and they're fulfilling themselves in some way that maybe they never knew about before. Do you find a lot of people are really not connected with happiness? They're not even sure what that is?
Absolutely. And they don't know where it's what I find with people is they come in with maybe an idea of why they're not happy. But what I do is kind of take this ball of yarn that's in a big knot and all confused and pull it apart and say, okay, let's look at all of these different areas of life And let's address each one of those and see where this is coming from. Like kind of like, clues. Like, oh, it could be your thoughts, it could be your emotions. It could be your relationships. It could be that you're being a victim of your story. It really starts with that one because that's the whole foundation of all of this is, are you being a victim or are you being a victor in your life? Because
Mm,
that's the jumping off point. So
I
it's
like that.
fascinating. Yeah, it's fascinating. And people don't know, people get stuck in their story and they believe that story to be true. This happened to me when I was a kid, or in this situation I was wronged in some way. And so that's why I can't be happy. That's why I can't move forward. And it's like, I'm going to challenge that one.
Well, sometimes we need to be challenged on our beliefs, our thoughts, our the programs that we've grown up with. And if we
Right.
don't know, we don't know. It's not our fault. We can't blame ourselves for that. It's just how it is. And learning to discover and uncover is part of the fun. It's an adventure. We're supposed to get in there and dig out our own gold and find our value because it's in there. We all have it. It's not, you get some and I don't. It's we all have it and we all
Yeah.
it's, let's figure out how to be it and what is your title called? Be you,
Be,
be happy.
be you live happy.
Be you, live happy. See, that
Yeah.
is perfect. We need to strive for that a little bit more. So first of all, please tell me, how did you come up with that name? Was there like a moment that said, this is the name, or it was just something you carried around with you all the time, or how did you come up with that name?
Yeah, you know what? It was kind of inspired, an inspired moment of really connecting to spirit, to universe, to some kind of download that came in that gave me this information to say that all you have to do and this was in my own kind of dark night of the soul moment, all you have to do is to live happy and to create the life that you want and to attract the life that you want is to be yourself. And it was like, well, I mean, that sounds like such a relief. And and it was like, well, what does that really mean? So it got me curious. I'm always a pretty curious person by nature to say, what does that mean? Not the self of the personality self, of the roles that I play in my life, and none of that. It was really going into, I was like, it's like an archaeological dig, to go in and go, okay, what are these parts of myself and who am I? So it started with that, with this authenticity piece and how that showed up for me. So it was my own exploration into that and realizing that when you step in being yourself, being fully yourself is being the best that you are. It's the best parts of you. It's, how does my heart feel? How do I want, how are my thoughts? How does my brain work? How do I do it? And really fully stepping into that and owning that. And then it's that comfortable in your own skin feeling. Like we all know the feeling, but we may not have gone through this process of defining what that is.
Right.
So I do have a process that goes through to define authenticity because we're all unique. I mean, I was reading the other day that even identical twins have different fingerprints. So, I mean, we're
Right.
all 100% unique. So I believe our purpose and my passion and our purpose here on earth is to remember that, remember who we are, like remember, like putting these pieces of ourselves back together that we got lost along the way, or, we took on others' beliefs, we took on this personality, and we are miraculous. We are an individual, beautiful, unique creation. And when we can define that, like, what does that mean for me? And step into it, everything changes and you're happy. So it was kind of those things that had gone into place.
Okay. Well, that's
Yeah.
amazing. And
Yeah.
I mean, it always does really come from our own journeys, our own experiences, how we come up with these, courses or methods that we help will help other people. So,
Yeah.
who was Christina before this? Were you spiritual? Were you helping people already? Like, how did you evolve to where you are today?
Yeah, I think that I've always been spiritual. I've always um I've always had a sense of um my own path, even since I was a little kid. And my life, of course, my life took like all of us many roads to get here, and all of these little pieces to come in. But I think I've been coaching since 2007, so I've done a lot of coaching and a bunch of roads up there too. And all of it's all prepared me for this completely. But I think what started the happiness piece for me, which was really unique, is I went through breast cancer. So I had breast cancer 15 years ago, late stage 3 breast cancer. And one of my friends had asked me, "What can I do to support you? What makes Chris happy?" And I could not answer that question, and it bothered me. It was like I knew what made me feel accomplished, like all those external things, right? What made me feel accomplished, what made me feel, you know, fulfilled or successful or whatever. I had those things. I built those things over a difficult life. But I found myself like, oh my gosh, happy, why can't I answer this? Like I was like, was happy, did that mean fun? Like what's, I had no idea what that even meant. So I decided at that point, I knew I was going to be off, kind of taken out of life for a little bit while I did treatments and surgeries and all of that. So I dedicated that time to learning about happiness. So I had stacks of books of, the Happiness Project and the Dalai Lama's book on happiness. And I ran across Marcy Shimoff's book, Happy for No Reason. And I read all of those books, and I learned from each one, of course. But hers is the one that my soul went, yeah, this makes sense to you. Like this is aligned with you. So I went through that process, and I kind of, then life went on. I kind of like set it aside and life went on. And years later, I ran across a program that Marcy was facilitating, and I joined this program. And I got connected with her. We started emailing back and forth, and she's one of the world experts on happiness. She's an amazing mentor and a great friend. And she's like, you need to do, you should really thinking about doing my training. And I was like, at first I was like, oh, I don't know. It wasn't like a big yes, it was like this. I had this little nudge that said, just check it out. Just do the interview. It was small and it was subtle, but I paid attention to it because I had already learned all this other, paying attention to how things show up for me. So I did the interview. Okay, you have to be accepted into this thing. So I did an interview, and so it was like the movie, like that Tom Cruise movie, like you had me at hello.
Oh,
It was it was like, yes, this, that was the bigger yes. Like, yep, this is my lane. This is something that lights me up. So I started that. And so then I kind of combined those two to say, okay, this authenticity piece, how to define authenticity, how do these things show up for you uniquely so that you can become aware of them? Like, oh, this is happening, and it's all information. And then the happiness piece, which is it's just miraculous, truly. Like I am always so honored and surprised every time I see people's lives change, and they're like, this is changing my life. And I'm always so, I don't know, honored to witness that. Like, wow, it's really fun. So I love it. I love what I do. It's who I am. It's very much aligned. People always say that, what do you do? And what I do is who I am. there's no difference between those two. There's nothing to retire from. It's not my career. It's not my, it's who I am. And I get to do it every day. And I'm so blessed to get to do what I do
Mm.
every
Oh my
day.
goodness, right?
Live happy.
Right? You get to
Yeah, just
be
be
happy, you
happy.
get to spread happy, you get to see happy.
Yeah,
There's, yeah, how can you not be happy when it's
yeah,
all around you and it's you're fostering it, you're facilitating it, you're
yes,
watching it bloom in other people. I think that's incredible. What a gift. What a gift to be able to give somebody, because a lot of people, as we mentioned, don't even know what that is. To,
right,
they just
right,
go through their lives with thinking, this thing over here makes me happy, that partner makes me happy, that car makes
right,
me happy. But
right,
really, when it's all taken away, as you know, I know also being a breast cancer uh, journeyer, um, none of that matters. All that stuff, it doesn't matter. And when you're laying there in your bed and you're thinking, is this the end? What have I done? What's happening? What's going on here?
right,
And you can't find that piece of you. Then well, for myself, I knew I wasn't done then, because there was still so much work to be done. And that breast cancer for me was a gift, as I'm
yes,
assuming it kind of was for you also. And just that realization that there is more to this life, there's more to uncovering for myself than I ever dreamed was a thing. I didn't, I never gave myself permission to maybe even be happy. Maybe ultimately that's a thing. Just
right.
going through and working for everybody else and doing everything for everybody else and not satisfying that calling, that thing inside. And I'm sure you come across a lot of people that uh, need help with that guidance.
Yes, yes. And I think women can fall into this easier. I mean, we're kind of wired to be caretakers and making other people, having all these roles to take care of everyone else. And then, like you said, I don't think we've even maybe even had that question posed of what makes you happy? Um, you happy, not because of all of those things. So it's really interesting because it just begins with awareness.
Right.
It's starting to go, oh, it was like that moment for me of happy, like, what do you even mean? Um, there's an awareness around that. And so all change begins with awareness for sure. And breast cancer was a gift. I said,
Yeah.
like, the most challenging gift, but it,
Right.
it definitely changed the course of my life in, like you said, in ways like I would not have imagined then that here I am doing what I'm doing now. It just took this whole other thing. And if you allow these things in life to do that, because so many people just look at their lives and they're like, well, these are the cards that were dealt to me. That wasn't in the cards for me. I wasn't raised in that kind of family. I didn't have that kind of money, blah, 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 all these
Right.
stories that they get stuck in and they're not even aware they're stuck. And so that's
Right.
that big, like, oh, you know, and I think that's really the beginning point because it comes down to learning from those situations. Like, well, what did you learn? What was the gift in that? If this traumatic thing in your life was happening for you, what would that be? And that's a
Right.
difficult thing. And I can relate. I've had a ton of trauma in my life, loads of childhood abuse and a difficult life. And I could look at all of those things now and say, those things are the gold in my life now because they made me the person that I am. And I learned through them and I grew through them. But it takes some self-reflection. And I love that because it releases you. It's like let's just take the shackles off, you
Right.
know? It's
Yep.
like this thing that kept you shackled is now, a quiver in your bag. It's now a tool. It's now an ally in your life. It's
Right.
not what, the victim part of that story. it's now you're one of your best advisors, that story. And when you make that shift, it's like, so liberating. And again, taking
Right.
it kind of connects you back to that inner sense of authenticity. Like it heals that part that got blown apart at the time when you were a child, or whatever happened to you. It kind of gets blown apart and it kind of puts it back together. Like, oh, okay, I get it now. This makes sense. And
It's
you
a
make people.
rewiring, right?
It
It's
is.
almost like a rewiring.
It's literally a rewiring not only in your thoughts and your beliefs, but then subsequently with your neural pathways in your brain,
Right.
literally, physically affecting your entire nervous system. Like it's all so interrelated. So like one little thing gets triggered and it all falls in like a domino, chunk, 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 chunk,
Mm,
everything
right.
starts to go into play. And we know that we feel that when we're triggered by things. I always say our triggers are our treasures. Like when you get triggered by something, pay attention. It's like universe going, what's that? Time to work on that.
Yeah, it's like, oh, you didn't know you had a paper cut there. Let
Yeah,
me let
exactly.
me get some salt in it. Let me touch something that's going to make it zing. So
Right.
so you're listening. Yeah, it's about yeah, you gotta be aware, as you said, and
Yeah.
that's definitely the first key. So when people come to you, what are the first things that you sort of work how you work with them when they first arrive on your doorstep?
Right, right. We typically begin with going through some of the facts around happiness, like I'm a real data driven person. Like everything that I teach, I love that it is backed by science and proven strategies. There's a lot of research behind it, not just stuff I made up, like, oh, smile at yourself every day in the mirror and you'll be happy. No, maybe, but so we usually start with that foundational piece. So we start with some data about happiness and how your happiness is derived, because some of it is genetic, some of it is habits, some of it is circumstances. Talking about like where you are, it's almost like a scale. There's a scale called the happiness continuum to say, where are you on this scale? So we know where your starting point is and where you're wanting to go. And then the very first thing is that foundational piece. Are you a victim or a victor? And how do you know that? And how you know that for your listeners today is if you find yourself blaming, shaming, or complaining, that's giving your power away. And we all do it, right?
100%.
We all do it. We all do it. But it's to become aware of that. So we make it a game. It's like the blame, shame, complain game. And you throw $1 in a jar or do whatever anytime. So you start to become aware of how often you're doing that, because these things are just habits.
Right.
So it's like, oh, okay. And are you shaming yourself? That's a big one that I see a lot with women is shame. Shame is just blaming yourself. Blaming,
Right.
instead of blaming others, it's like, why didn't I say this? Why didn't I speak up? Why didn't I shut up? Why didn't I set a boundary? It's my fault. Um,
Hmm.
Mother does this a lot,
Which
you know,
which does mothers?
others, with
Hmm.
their
Right.
children, I did it wrong. I should have done this. La 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 la. And we all do it. So that's really the beginning part, and then we move into different areas of your life. And I call that your inner home for happiness, because it's 7 areas of your life, and it's impossible to remember 7 things. So it's the foundation, and then it's the mind and the heart and the body and the soul, and then purpose. Like having a purpose is important as far as happiness goes. And then your relationships. So we go through each one of those things separately. And I teach tools on how to develop, heal, and make decisions based on the information that you've learned along the way. And so that you stay aligned with that. It's really, it's an
Right.
amazing process, and it's a joy to do.
Well, it's nice to have a process too, because a lot of people they want to see how do I get there? Well, what are the steps? Not everybody is
Yes.
open to just here, help me. But a lot of people need to have those pieces in
Right,
place.
right. I think that structure is very important. It's one thing to meet with a coach or meet with, somebody like me, and we just talk about, what your happiness and why you're unhappy, and I can give tools for that. But to take somebody through that process while coaching them kind of gives that coaching a more of a focus, a more and in each one kind of builds on the other. So it's kind of building this house, it's building this inner house, rebuilding that inner house that you're going to take out with you. So it takes you through a process while still having those conversations that are more individualized or more focused on, what's going on with this person's life.
Right.
uh, yeah,
Yeah, we all
yeah,
are, like as we said, we all are different. So it's
yeah.
awesome to be able to have a structure, but then, you work with each person as they are and how they fit into that particular space at that time of their life. I would assume it's where they are
Right.
and you meet them there and help them go forward. So if
Right.
our women would like to find out more about you or work with you, how may they do that?
They can find me at bulivehappy.com. So it's all spelled out, BEYOU, livehappy.com. And I wanted to let you know, because I don't think we talked about this last time. I offer this happiness program to women that are going through cancer, that either have or had cancer and they're struggling. I offer this program. I do not charge women with cancer. So it's a
Oh
free.
my word. Wow. Wow, Christina, that is generous and so wonderful. I know because you've been there and having something such as this would have been for myself at that time would have been just such a relief, I would think, even is a good word because it would have helped me focus on the positive things and the things that I could do for myself. When I went through treatments and things, I was so stressed out because of, I was going through a divorce at the same time and just not having any capacity, brain capacity to, um, take on any new holistic ways to heal or any of that stuff for my physicality. So I just gave myself over to the doctors and said, here, you deal with my body. I'm going to go over here and work on the other parts, my emotions, my mental state, my spirituality. So having somebody like you in their corner at that moment would be so beneficial. I think it would be just beautiful. I'm gonna make sure I spread the word a little bit more about that because I know how important it is coming from that space of healing. So my goodness, thank you so much for sharing everything that you've shared with us today. Is there anything else you would like to speak to before we sign off?
I can't think of anything that jumps out besides just following up with what you were just saying of, when you're going through cancer treatment, happiness plays into your health, your physical health, your mental health, your emotional health, and you want to support yourself. I think it's what saved me was delving into this happiness material, and my mindset changed my outcome. And I had decided at that point that regardless of my outcome, I wanted to live the time that I had and have still, thankfully, happy.
Right.
So, yeah, despite all of that, despite cancer, despite your story, despite the cards you were given, it is possible. It is absolutely 100% possible to live happy despite any of those things. So it's my absolute passion and purpose in life to share this with other people.
So wonderful. Okay, women of the Women's Wellness Network, we will put all of Christina's information into the comment section so that you can reach out to her and find out more about her. And please, if you know anybody who is going through cancer, breast cancer, or has just gone through, please pass the message on because Christina has, the experience and the knowledge of what it's like to be there and what it's like to not be there anymore. So finding that joy, being happy in your life will make it full and purposeful. And it gives you that, I can still go. I can still do it. I want to be here. There's so much to live for and so much joy to be found in this world. So, Christina, thank you so much for sharing everything with us today. And Women of the Women's Wellness Network, thank you for watching. And of course, until next time, be well. Thank you again, Christina.
Thanks for having me, Tammy.
You're very welcome.